Dave Billing, nice to see you, Executive Creative Director at Fold7 agency, creative agency. Now you're known for really emotionally resonant storytelling, and I think I read somewhere on your site that you build brands that lead. But what does leadership look like in a brand today?
Well, I think brands have got to do two things really, and this is what our proposition's about. So it's got to be about sort of consistency, brand platforms that are fertile, that you can execute against for years to come, that are meaningful, that are resonant with people. But the other bit is figuring out how you also get to roll with culture, as we call it. So we say it's about rock solid brands that roll with culture. So that means where can you show up, where the audience is hanging out, how can you contribute to that conversation, how can you actually be around the stuff that people care about, the stuff that people are actually passionate about, which are like fandoms and all those sorts of niche things that you'll find on any sort of turn of the page on Reddit.
But how fickle is all of that, and how difficult is that all to track consistently?
It's hard. There are tools, there are ways of doing this. I think we've long had metrics for sort of like looking at brand health and things like that, and sort of brand codes and are they communicating to consumers. We know that stuff works. All the tools are in place for that, and there are ways. There's amazing things you can now do with sort of social listening and AI to kind of be on top of what's the evolving conversation in social spaces.
I was wondering how long it was going to take before one of us mentioned
Yeah.
the two-letter acronym AI.
Yeah.
Of course, it's huge here. It's been a lot of discussions this week, but I have seen myself personally a shift in that. What have you got from this week in terms of the way AI is being used in creative agencies?
Well, I mean, everyone's talking about it, right? I think it's really interesting, right? So this year, I mean, previously years that we've come here, people have been talking about it a little bit, and there's been a lot of a sense of sort of fear around, will it come and take our jobs? Now, I don't think that's entirely gone away. And actually, but there's a lot more comfort this year around. People are obviously using this stuff. We're all using it personally, right? You're probably, Chat GPT 5 minutes ago. I mean, I know I did. So we're all using the tools. We're much more familiar with them. I still think, though, there's quite a lot of naivety in the conversation. So I've been to some good panels. They've been really interesting. But you tend to hear the same things time and time again, which is, one is like, AI is just a tool. Sure, AI is a tool, much like the printing press and the wheel were tools, right? They're transformational tools that fundamentally change human existence, right? The way we live, the way we work, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's more than just a tool, right? Because, a handsaw can't go off and talk to another handsaw and decide to, do whatever. These are semi-sentient things. But I think what's interesting is this slight naivety around, so I've heard some sort of CMOs say, well, actually what it does is embolden the creative process because, through visualization we can see where we're all getting to, and actually it makes us braver. Yes, that is true, and we saw that with Audible last year, that, once we could actually start doing world building in AI before we shot anything, everyone gets more comfortable with it. So there's a lot of talk about it making agencies creatively braver. But by the same token, if you're looking at Meta automating this whole thing with no humans in the mix, that's going to be super appealing to a lot of CFOs who go, but it's 80% cheaper. So it's going to be a very tough marketer who can go up to that person and say, well, it might be 80% cheaper, but the end result is 20% worse. So that's a hard conversation to have. And when are we going to start having those conversations? Very soon, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you there. Just from my own use of, we use Chat GPT as well, but we can't use it for anything meaningful at the moment because it is a bit rough around the edges. It doesn't work entirely.
Isn't it? It's word salad, and I think the danger is, so we use it really quite successfully. The agency is actually beginning to be remodeled around the tools and how we can use them, but you still obviously need two things, right? Humans are really good at two bits. One is the input. Right, so if you've got a fully automated AI, I don't think the inputs are ever going to be good enough. You need someone to come up with something brilliant, something they want to communicate, something that's felt, that's based on lived experience. That's crucial. That then goes into the AI, and then you need human taste at the other end, because it's only humans that have the taste to decide whether an idea is good or not, or whether it's meaningful or moving or not.
What's the secret then to creating ideas that really actually connect? And we're humans doing it. In the agency, you'll be humans doing it. What's the secret to creating that?
The secret to doing it is, oh my God, is there a formula? I think you don't need to overthink it too much, right? We're all humans that make this stuff. You have lived experience. Not every day am I an advertising person. I go home, I'm a dad. I'm many different things in my life. And if it's meaningful for you and a few people that you work with, I suspect you've landed on something that feels like a universal human truth. But we're doing a lot of work globally now. And you do find that there are still plenty of things that talk to shared human experience that transcends culture, community, ethnicity, all those things. There's still plenty of things that we share as humans, and there's plenty of stuff to be mined out of there. But that's really the truth. It's got to be based on that stuff.
Yeah, and one would imagine bold as well and brave. How do you balance bold storytelling with delivering on business results?
Well, I only really concern myself with the bold storytelling side of things because I have very talented colleagues who will try and kind of rein me in and make me think about the other, sort of commercial realities.
Are they often breathing down your neck?
Often, but I think we know there's been plenty of research around how the most creative work is the most famous work and it's the most effective work, right? So there's been so much. Les Binet and Peter Field did so much work around this. So in the end, the nonsensical thing to do in a climate where everyone's skipping ads anyway, is to make stuff that's just forgettable or, it's just invisible. Why would you do that? So surely at a time like this, if you think back to the 90s when people were making beautiful sort of particularly, film advertising, that was a time when everyone was watching that stuff. So actually they could have arguably been afforded to be a bit lazier, right? But actually they didn't. So there was so much care and craft and love and big, bold thinking. And now we've become sort of like, there's a bit more laziness, there's a bit more complacency actually in terms of what we make, at a time when we absolutely can't afford to do that at all.